So, hello, Markus. Hello, you from Ukraine.
Hello, hello. Greetings from Zurich. Thank you for inviting me to this chat.
First of all, Markus, please tell us a little about yourself for our viewers. Where do you live? What do you do, etc.?
So I live in Zurich, and I am by profession actually a future archaeologist. That means I do research about the future, so the mid-21st century. So I'm looking at big, basically societal changes in the upcoming 20 to 30 years from now. And photography is kind of like a passion that I pursue very, let's say, with a lot of fun. And yeah, I pursue it a lot in, let's say, the last 5 years.
And how did photography come into your life?
So mainly actually after I have shot with a lot of digital cameras and I switched to Leica in 2016, and that is when I realized how I found the right tool now, and I found my home and my creative outlet next to my professional work. And then I decided that I really want to dedicate a lot of time, basically everything I have, next to my professional work with photography. Yeah.
Mm. And how you teach the photography? Maybe someone helps you with this?
So my main source of inspiration for photography were actually either photo books or YouTube. So I'm pretty much self-taught. And in the meantime, I've taught other people in real life and also a little bit online.
Okay, so about cameras. What cameras do you shoot with and why?
So I mainly shoot with Leicas. So I have a digital Leica, which is a digital Leica that doesn't have a back screen. It's the Leica M-D for the viewers who maybe are familiar with the camera. Shall I show also the camera, or I have it right here? It would be this, basically my favorite digital camera is this, Leica M-D. And as you see, it doesn't have a back screen.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically shoot digital, but it feels like analog. And this was this camera in 2016 when it came out that ignited my real true passion for photography, because it completely slowed me down and gave me a different kind of like feeling when shooting. And I started to basically have to pay a lot more attention to framing in photography. And that later led me to analog photography. So nowadays, I also do a lot of analog photography. I also develop and scan my own films, so I don't use labs usually. And then I continued shooting with, the Leica M6, basically.
Mm-hmm.
This is then, basically, it looks pretty much the same than the digital camera. If you see the back.
MD like M10.
Yes, without... it's like an, yeah. And minus D, so it's M minus D, and I think it stands for minus display. So it's an M without a display, basically.
Yes. So I have also, I'm a very big fan of Leica too. So my digital is Leica CL.
Ah, nice. Yes. CL. That's super cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also very like shooting on film, and my film is Leica R6.
Wow, I have never seen an R6 in real. Yes. Wow. Yeah, that's truly beautiful. I really love their design and simplicity.
Mm-hmm. Heavy for me, for girls' hands, but it's okay.
Yeah, the ends are also not very light, to be honest. That's why I always have straps. I like using straps when walking around. And then lately, talking about weight, in the beginning of this year, I actually got into medium format. And into medium format, I got because of this piece. I don't know if you have ever seen it. Oh. It's a Mamiya RZ67. And I had the privilege to find a pretty much brand new one in Japan. I think it was not used before. And with this one, I entered medium format photography.
So, Markus, I saw that you shoot a lot of film, and why do you shoot on film anyway in the age of digital photography?
So for me, first of all, the step from the Leica M-D to film was very easy because I already had a camera that had no display. So the main difference between the M-D and a film camera is that you can shoot more than 36 frames. So you can shoot as much as fits on the SD card, but you only know the results when you come back home, right? So connected to the PC. It doesn't even have Wi-Fi or anything. I think the new M-D has Wi-Fi, but the current one, or the one I have, doesn't. And so for me, first of all, the step was very easy. So to basically say, okay, I just restrict myself to 36 frames and then I need to change the film was one thing. But what for me differentiates film and my shooting experience from the MD, so the digital Leica, to the analog one is that after every 36 frames, I can change the film type. Mm-hmm. So basically, I can change the look. So with a digital camera, no matter what you buy, if it's a Sony, a Nikon, a Panasonic, or Leica, you will have that same look and feel basically over 10,000s of photos, right? And with the M6, I can put in a color film from Kodak or a color film from Fuji or from Lomography and a black and white film from Kodak or Ilford or Ferrania and so on. And they look completely different. So in my creativity, when I say, I'm now in Venice and it's bright daylight and I choose the specific film. And then we have, let's say a foggy morning. And then I might choose an Ilford HP5, Mm-hmm. And so I can react every 36 frames to my environment. And when I'm somewhere, I usually have like a bag of films with me. And I choose the look and film basically when being on site. And it gives me, when I look at the scans and later after development, I at least I myself, I'm not able to mold a digital photo to that specific look that film gives me. It's so special and emotional, if you ask me, to get those negatives. Even look at them, with your own eyes without the scanner. It's just so rewarding.
Yes. Markus, and what focal length do you prefer the most and how do you choose it for shooting?
Yeah, so my favorite one, as many who pursue street photography, is the 35 millimeters. 35. So 35 is the focal length I feel more comfortable. I think I get the right amount of information, and it's, for me at least, the most versatile. And the focal length I'm generally shooting is 28, 35, 50, and 75. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a 90, and I don't have ultra wide angle. And I mainly switch between, I would say, 35 and 50. Mm-hmm. Those are my two favorites. And if you ask me, how do I choose? So 75 for me is something that I either just use for portraits, mm-hmm. or I just take that lens with me. Like, for example, now I was shooting the 75. This is the 75 APO Summicron on the MD. Sometimes I take the 75 as a challenge. I go out and I stay with that 75 the whole day. And then you have to be creative and you will do a lot more, let's say, minimalist things or abstract things because you don't get a lot in your frame if you don't do portraits. But yeah, I would say generally I'm the 35 millimeter type of person and 50 maybe sometimes.
Thank you. And how much do you edit your photographs, moving away from the original towards artistry?
Actually, not a lot. So I mainly use Capture One. I don't really retouch in Photoshop or something. So I just leverage the capabilities of Capture One. I used to use Lightroom before. And what I mainly edit are for black and white, the contrasts and the shadows. Because what I really like is paying a lot of attention when I shoot a photo, when clearing the light. So I try to get the absolute best exposure I can get on film already so that when I scan it or go to the darkroom, I have basically all the tones. I don't need to save highlights or shadows. And then what I like in the look in black and white is if it goes from white to black, that I have the full spectrum. I'm not the biggest fan. I used to, but not anymore. I'm not the biggest fan of these grayish looking black and white photos. And in color, what I mainly do is I do something that is called color compression. So in Capture One, for example, and I guess in Lightroom as well, you have these RGB channels. I don't know if the viewers are familiar. So that basically those digital images are split into 3 channels: red, green, and blue. And all of these channels have kind of like a curve or a levels in these photo editing tools. And if you go into each and every channel and compress them, you can get your own signature look. So for me, what is also very important, maybe as a side topic in photography, is to kind of like develop a color look or a black and white look that no matter what photo I take off, that potentially maybe one day some people say, I think this is kind of like Marcus's signature edit, right? So that's why it's mainly the color compression I do. That is maybe something I do in a way that maybe not many do. So that's, I would say, the main thing I edit. And I am a fan of not cropping too much. Mm-hmm. I basically crop to correct maybe if something's a little bit tilted. So I don't like it if it's tilted. And if there's something in the sides that I really want to remove. But I'm never the one who crops like half of the image.
You know, great Henri Cartier-Bresson said that between great and bad photo, we have just 1 or 2 millimeters. Could you describe your formula for the ideal defining moment? Maybe 1-3 components need to come together to get the perfect shot.
I think the main one, and especially in black and white, is light. I think if I would give one tip to someone who starts photography or would tell me they would want to shoot black and white, I would say try to learn to read the light, because that's the most interesting in your photo. So if the light isn't right, especially on people's face, like skin tones, that is a deal breaker. That's number one. And so if you have the right light, I think what is very important as well for me is the framing of the subject. And I wouldn't have a third one. So for me, there are probably hundreds other little things, but I think the framing and the light are those 2 things that for me define an interesting photo.